Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Kindra Svendsen. Kindra is the Director of Digital Marketing Services at Speak Creative, and she and her team at Speak Creative help B2C customers increase their online presence to better market their business by creating engaging strategies that reach their audiences through all touchpoints of their digital presence, including search, social, pay-per-click, content, citations, and more. Well, there's definitely a lot to talk about right there, Kindra. Welcome to the show, Kindra Svendsen.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, let's get a little bit more information about yourself and your background in marketing, and tell us a little bit more about Speak Creative and what you do there.
Sure, yeah. So I joined the team over 4 years ago as a digital marketing coordinator. So I was the one really diving in and writing the blogs and doing the research and kind of down at the level of the clients producing the work. My background is in traditional marketing, a little bit of advertising, and on the brand side. And so coming to an agency was a big switch for me, but has been awesome. And then Speak Creative, we started doing digital marketing 5-6 years ago, just as it really boomed. And we have we're celebrating 20 years as an agency next year, and so that's a big milestone for us. But the digital marketing has certainly come on just as it's increased in popularity for businesses.
Really, there's the old school advertising, which definitely worked for many years ago, but some of them are getting left behind when they're not really jumping onto the digital bandwagon. And that's really where the future is. So tell me about some of these clients that you service at Speak Creative. Are you in one particular niche, or are you all across the board?
As we've evolved, we definitely have a pretty big Memphis footprint, but we do have a national scale. And so we work with clients throughout the country. Our biggest niche, I guess, would be just meaningful organizations. We like to work with people who do good in their industry. So we work with a lot of zoos and aquariums. We work with a lot of nonprofits. That's really important to us, is to help them help others. And so we also work with local businesses, HVAC repair, landscaping, that sort of thing. We certainly are on that local level, but what we look for in a client is just a meaningful partnership. They do meaningful work, and we like to help those clients.
And what kind of problems are they having? Do you see the same problems across the board with the non-profits as well as the HVAC, or are they completely different?
I would say at the core, they're the same, but they come very differently. So if it's a more local business, certainly just the local competition is a big concern. For nonprofits, they tend to not think of their competitors as competition, but they definitely need to carve out their own space. So at the core, I think everyone just wants to increase their digital presence to be found the most, whether they call that competition or not. That's certainly the base problem. But yeah, they certainly come in with different needs, whether that is, I just don't know how to do pay-per-click, or I don't have time. And so that's our role, is really to be an extension of their team and become a partner to them, not just a vendor.
Mm-hmm. It's becoming harder and harder to get that attention that every business needs. There's so much noise out there. What kind of things are you doing to rise above that noise for your clients?
For sure. So I like to look at it as every single touch point of that your audience has with your business needs to be optimized. In today's world, all of those touch points are digital. So you have online reviews, you have web searches, you have display ads, you have social media, you have blogs and directories. It's all leading up to what someone thinks when they think of your business. And so we try to be as holistic as possible work from the website out. So we want to make sure the website's a great product, because when people want to know about you, the first place they're going is online. But now that other platforms are increasing kind of how they're presenting information, it's important to optimize those too. So Google My Business is huge for us. Social, of course, will always have a place. And then we're getting into some new avenues too. So kind of looking off the computer, off the Google search, digital methods of advertising like media streaming, Waze, the GPS system is an interesting thing to look at. There's all sorts of connected ways we can get to an audience today.
Yeah, well, I definitely like to talk about some of those, but going back to your earlier background, this seems like it's more branding, being able to put the clients that you work with across all these different kinds of platforms.
Yeah, I think that branding is kind of my passion. So I like to make it my client's passion too, because I just think it's really important that people feel who you are at the core. So as soon as they see your name, they're not looking at your colors or your fonts of your logo, but how you make them feel. And so if we can increase that and impact that positively, at the end of the day, we're building customer loyalty and we're building more sales.
Well, the good thing is that Google really loves brands, and they tend to share brands more preferably than other companies that don't have a brand attached to them. So it really makes sense to brand your business across all the digital platforms.
Yeah.
So talk to me about some of the really important ones that you see getting great results.
Some of the platforms that we see?
Yes, the platform.
First and foremost, we got to play Google's game. Google My Business is just becoming more and more important. We're seeing Google take a real authority on wanting to give the information that normally you get from a website. So your hours of operation, pictures of your business, directions, reviews, links to your social media. They've added questions and answers where people can ask other people questions about your business, and anyone can answer those. So they're really trying to take an authority on who you are, and we recommend that you're right there alongside them, making sure that all of that information is accurate. That is by far the number one.
It's almost like it's becoming another website, the Google My Business, isn't it?
Yeah, and I really have to give credit to our SEO team. One of our SEO conversion specialists, he wants us all to think of Google as our homepage. And so that's a really big shift for marketers who, spend all this time crafting the perfect website. Now we're seeing more clicks on the Google My Business knowledge panel, whereas traffic might be steadily going down. And it's not a bad thing. It's because they're getting what they need, but without ever even having to go to your website. So making sure that they're getting the right picture and the full picture before they even make it to your website is so important.
That is. So what kind of things can you do on the Google My Business page to make sure that they are seeing the right picture of your business?
Well, I think some of the things I mentioned before, just adding good pictures, updated pictures. A lot of times there's old staff pictures or something that you maybe added to your Google Plus page way back when. So just keeping that up to date, making sure your hours are accurate. Asking clients that have had positive experiences to leave you reviews is so, so important. When we get into talking about how Google presents your business, whether it's in the local pack, the map listing, those reviews really matter in where you show up. If you have more positive reviews and a better rating, you're going to show up above your competitors. And so taking care of all of that is important. I mentioned the question and answer section. We're recommending that people curate that a little bit. So go ahead and make that your FAQ section and answer as your brand so that you have a voice above any of the other clutter. We have had a client who unfortunately had a local guide just go and answer all the questions with her own opinions. And some of those weren't correct and were misleading to the clients. And so it was really important that we got their voice as the answer to those questions, because ultimately that's what the customers are looking for, is a connection with the brand.
Right. It's interesting that other people are able to, answer these questions on your brand and your page. That's certainly something that you need to keep an eye on to make sure that the correct message is going out about your business.
Yeah.
I know the reviews have a ranking factor. Is the other content that you put on the Google My Business page, does that also help with ranking? Have you seen any specific results with that?
It certainly does. One thing important to note is that, as I say, Google kind of wants to be your homepage. Being in the first organic spot doesn't have nearly as much worth as it once did. Not to say it's not important, but Google is providing you so much local content above the fold before you start scrolling. Certainly on mobile, more than 100% of your screen is local information. And then on desktop, same. I mean, we call it position 0, whether they're answering a question that you ask with rich content, or they're giving you a map, or giving you a product when you search for something specific. So all of that information, by optimizing your Google My Business profile and connecting it to your website and verifying who you are, that sends really positive signals to Google that will get you in that position 0 much, much better than, moving along in the organic search and up and down. So yeah, it's very, very important.
And how about voice search? How is that having an impact? I know, that can, get into that position 0 as well if you optimize things properly with voice.
Yeah, absolutely. We are certainly considering voice in everything that we write. So as the years have gone along, just content needs to be much more quality. There's no more keyword stuffing and optimizing specifically for SEO. Content is really needing to be optimized for the user. And so naturally, we're using a little bit longer keywords, long tail keywords, and just writing more naturally to be searched by voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like that's going to be the search of the future. I know I use the voice search predominantly now, and I think we're at, 15-20% of searches are voice now, but that's going to increase dramatically as the years go by.
Yeah, and Google is offering that answer box, like I mentioned, and we're often finding that the voice that Google Home, or the answer that Google Home gives you, is the snippet from that answer box. So also optimizing our content to be included as an answer box. That's one of our focuses for most of our clients as well.
Yeah, there's always something new that's coming out that we really have to focus on, and Google My Business is definitely something that's evolved over the years and is getting great results now. What else are you seeing that's getting good results?
One of the things that I've been hearing some chatter about in the industry is captions on photos. So image search is it's revamping. Google is seeing that people are using it. And so, of course, they want to make it better and better. And so I think we're going to see a lot of change with how people are searching for images. That doesn't necessarily correlate to voice search because you're not searching for images through your Google Home. But when you're on mobile and you need something quick, you head over to that images tab. And so I think optimizing for that is really important. And I also think the going offline, kind of like I mentioned before, looking at new ways that aren't as saturated is going to be important. So whether that's music streaming, GPS, Google is operating hundreds of businesses in so many different industries. And my feeling is that they're going to increase adoption where they can, and then monetize it. So looking out for, the way Google's moving is always important.
So tell me how, like a local business or a nonprofit that you might work with would use something like Musical.ly or the Waze app in order to, attract more business.
Sure. So I think that it really depends on your audience, where they're going. We recently had a medical clinic who has a lot of locations, and we recommended Waze for them because one of their locations is on one of the busiest main roads in one of the big towns they're in. So people are often stuck in traffic. Waze use is really heavy there. And so putting an ad that says, hey, we understand that traffic's a pain in the neck. We're here for you. That sort of thing. I think just following your audience is the biggest thing. I also think that content is just so useful now. People are looking to absorb content. And so if you can curate a playlist and offer that as content, that's just as good as, advertising on a music streaming service as well.
I imagine thinking of the ways, if you are stuck in traffic on the way home and there's restaurants around, that it would be great advertising for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing, if your audience is really on those apps, then it's perfect for you. It's not something that, feels traditional, but neither did search a couple years ago. And so I just think we've got to keep moving. Everything old is new again, and we're going offline. I think as traditional online, search, paid, that whole landscape, as it becomes more saturated, we're just looking for new and better ways.
And there's always some innovative way to get yourself out there and get the attention that everybody is trying to gather.
Right.
So what are some of the misconceptions about the digital marketing industry then?
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is service versus price, especially on social. We all have social profiles, and so it feels like it isn't a big deal to manage a strategy for a business, which really couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of technique that goes into creating a solid strategy for a business. And so being able to execute that effectively and provide the value proposition there, I think, is an uphill battle for digital marketers. Same for search. People feel like they know how to write blogs, but being able to write a blog that is going to impact a search engine as much as it's going to impact a user is definitely a fine art.
And when we think about social as well, social can take a good bit of time and the know-how to make it work. Otherwise, it can be just a complete waste of time. What are good practices for social to really get an ROI, which is what every business owner is looking for?
First and foremost, I'll go back to follow your audience. If your audience isn't on Snapchat, don't waste your time. We have a lot of clients that feel like they should be on Twitter, but their audience is not there. And so cases can be made either way, I guess, for getting on a platform, staying up to date with technology, but really finding where your core audience and where it resonates with them. If you're a plumber, nobody wants to be Snapchatted by their plumber. So finding your audience is big. I also think that creating content for the individual network is important. So you're not going to talk to your audience on Instagram the same way you should on Facebook. Facebook is more of a conversation. Instagram is more of a content give. And then finally, I think that creating content that's okay to just live on your social media is important. So, oftentimes we're sharing content to get them to go back to our website. And this goes against digital marketing a little bit, the theories behind it. But if we can just engage them on that platform, not ask them to click through to get the full experience, I think that will go a long way in just creating that brand loyalty.
Yeah, and social seems to be more about just being top of mind and always being seen. So when they are ready to make a purchase or any kind of buying decision, you're who they think about right away rather than going to Google.
Right, yeah. And there's certainly a case to be made for, nonprofits asking for donations and needs, and there's great ways to link back into your website, but using social just as a means to drive traffic to your website isn't going to create that audience that you're looking for or keep them happy at the very least. So creating content they can absorb there, feel good about there, I think is really, really important. One of our biggest recommendations is just to ask questions from people. Social media is such a two-way street. No other platform has that in advertising. So if you do a billboard, people can't tell you what they think of the billboard right then and there. And social has that ability. So just, ask for it there and engage there.
So, Kindra, talk to me about your website and the company. It's called Speak Creative, and the website or the domain is madebyspeak.com. What does that mean?
Well, Made by Speak is just a movement. I mean, we make websites that launch your digital platform. Our president, Jacob Savage, said that websites are really a starting point in a marketing plan. They're not the end-all be-all, because how you market your website is just as important as building. And so our company takes a really holistic approach to digital presence. It certainly can start with a beautiful web design, but it needs to be functional, and it needs to convert for your audience, and it needs to help grow your business and bring people to you.
And how much are you using video in your marketing these days?
Quite a bit. We, a couple years ago, brought on a full-time videographer. Just first, as a service to our clients, there was a need for that. But secondly, so we could take advantage of it. We are producing video through a variety of ways, certainly social, but also internal communications, onboarding, email communication with clients. Video has definitely become a part of what we do.
And, you know, when you're looking at a digital agency like yourself, we're not talking about a company that does pay-per-click, or a company that does just SEO, or maybe a company that just does web development. You cover the whole range of services for your clients, right?
We absolutely do. So being that we're 20 years old, we didn't start on social, obviously. We started where the need was, when businesses needed web design. And from there, we've really evolved. So we have in-house developers, we have in-house designers, in-house digital marketing to cover everything. And now video, like I mentioned, we want to look at digital presence as a whole. We also do the occasional branding project or print piece. We certainly are that resource for our clients. We say we're digital first, but we are a full service agency.
So what have you found holds people back from contacting a digital marketing agency like yourself and, you know, getting the work done by professionals rather than trying to, you know, piecemeal it or do it themselves?
That's an interesting question. I think that certainly we're kind of in a do-it-yourself age where it feels like we have to do more with less all the time. And so I think that part of it is clients feeling like they have the skills or should have the skills to do it themselves. And then I think going with an agency, I don't know if it's the case anymore, but a traditional advertising agency, you think of big brands, you think of Nike, you think of Mad Men. There's kind of this like glamorized view of agencies. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the case anymore. You know, we help small businesses who are just starting out, and we help big companies that have been established for years and years. So I think agencies, specifically digital agencies, are really able to work with clients of any size because there's so much more reporting, so much more you can do with any size budget.
And what point does a client need to get, or a prospect need to get in their thinking to say, all right, now is the time in my business that I need extra help and I've got to contact a digital marketing agency like Speak Creative?
When we work with small businesses, one of the best things that we can offer them is that they are the expert in their industry. So we'll take a landscaper, for instance. They know landscaping like the back of their hand. It's not their job to understand social because it's so different from their core. So I think that any business who is looking to reach out, feels like maybe they can do it, but just aren't sure how to get started, it's okay to check your options. But I think that we have a good opportunity to help those businesses who are focused on their core product and what they do. And we can help them do that better through a digital space.
Right. Everybody stay in their lane. That's what I like to say. You do what you're good at and what you're happy doing. And, you know, for many people trying to work out some of the technical stuff that you have to learn to do either social or websites, you know, it's just, it's too much. And
well, yeah, and it's okay.
Happier.
It's okay to be the expert at one thing. You know, it's okay to not understand social. That's also a big thing. We love to educate clients as we go. So, you know, during your time with us, you will learn how we're doing it because we want to be transparent. But it's okay to not be the expert in that because you're such a good business person. You're running a business. You're managing your staff. that sort of thing. So yeah, if we can help them stay in their lane better, then we can certainly aid that much more.
Right. So give me some examples, Kindra, anybody that pops to mind that you've worked with, they came to you with a problem. What problem did they have? What solutions were you able to provide for them? And ultimately, what was the outcome?
Yeah, so like I said, we work with clients in a variety of industries. A couple examples that pop to mind are a medical office that has multiple locations. I think they're up to 5 or 6 locations now. And visibility was really big for them, especially in Memphis. Having a local presence in different neighborhoods was big for them. And so by really establishing a strategy of where their locations were and how they could reach those different audiences. If you're familiar with the Memphis landscape, Collierville and Germantown and East Memphis and Bartlett, those are all very different neighborhoods. And so being able to have one presence, but still reach local communities, hyper-local at that point, was really important for them. And so setting up individual Google My Business pages, setting up individual locations pages from one branded Facebook was big. And then writing content that reached out to all of those. We've recently done video work for them as well. And the result has been outstanding. So their appointments are up, which is great. That's a big for us. But they're also doing really cool things like ranking nationally for blogs that we've written for them. I think a blog about children's fevers is ranking nationally and giving them more visibility than they could have even hoped for.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Now, if people are thinking about hiring a digital marketing agency, what kind of questions should they be asking that company?
That's a good question. I have the honor of interviewing employees for the agency at some turns. And something I think about there that I think applies here is that some of those standard questions, you're going to get the standard answer. But what I think is important is to find a good fit. We really try to be a partner to our business, not a vendor. And so we want to be part of your marketing team, and understanding how you'll work together is more important than certainly the work can be done and the results should speak for themselves. So it's important to get that information, but understanding if you guys are a good fit for each other is super important, because at the end of the day, you're handing over budget to them, you're trusting them, and you need to know that they're going to honor that.
Right, and it does involve quite a bit of trust to, be handing over a check every month, and sometimes waiting on results, especially with things like SEO. Things don't happen overnight, right. So you've definitely got to trust the process. But seeing some results from the company is definitely a good indication of what they've been able to do previously. So Kindra, if somebody wants to reach out to you and Speak Creative, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can join us on any of our socials. We're at Speak Creative. Feel free to join the conversation or start one. We love that. Madebyspeak.com is our website, and there's a chat bot on there. You can get in touch with us, or you can email us, hello@madebyspeak.com.
Excellent. Well, plenty of options to connect there. Kindra Svendsen, thank you very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.